All right, let's talk about curiosity. We usually think of it as this, a good thing, something we want kids to have. But what if it's more than that? What if curiosity is actually a powerful sense, one that's totally untrained, and in the world we live in now, it really, really needs a guide?
I mean, this just hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? It's a feeling we all know. It's not just a casual interest. It's a craving, a pull from somewhere deep inside that feels almost physical, kind of like an appetite.
And yeah, if you think about it, this makes perfect sense. Just like hunger, you don't really choose to be curious about something. The feeling just kind of shows up. It doesn't ask your permission to start digging for answers. And once that question gets stuck in your head, man, you just have to know. It's this demanding, instinctual thing. So here's the big idea. If you think of your mind as a sense organ, like your eyes or your ears, then curiosity is how it moves. It's the mind reaching out, trying to touch the world of ideas and information. And just like any of our other senses, what we pointed at, well, that ends up creating our reality. Okay, but here's the twist. In our world today, that natural appetite, it's being hijacked. That instinct we have to know things is being systematically engineered, provoked, and honestly, it's being harvested. Let's get into how that happens. So, how does this actually work on a brain level? Well, it's a pretty simple and pretty powerful four-step loop. First, you get a little mystery, which creates a kind of tension in your mind. Then, you find the answer, and bam, you get a little hit of pleasure as your brain's reward system lights up. And over time, your brain can get hooked, not necessarily on the knowledge itself, but on that feeling of finding out. That's the loop that can be exploited. And when that powerful little loop is left untrained, when it's just running wild, it can take us to some pretty dark places. It can turn into obsession, where we just can't let something go. It can become voyeurism, where we get a little too interested in other people's lives. It can become a full-on addiction to the next little hit of information. And sometimes it can even lead to a kind of cruelty in how we consume the misfortunes of others. This quote really just puts it all in perspective, right? Our attention has literally become a product. Modern media, algorithms, they are designed to trigger that neurological hook, to keep us clicking, scrolling, and seeking, often with zero regard for our actual well-being. So if our curiosity is constantly being hijacked, what do we do? How do we take it back? Well, this is where an ancient concept comes in as a surprisingly practical solution: Dharma. Let's look at how this can act as a kind of compass for us. Now, before your brain goes to religion or dogma, just look at this definition. For our purposes, think of Dharma as a universal principle. It's a filter, a set of questions we can ask ourselves. Does this thing I'm curious about uphold life? Does it reduce suffering? Does it get me closer to the truth without hurting anyone? And just to be super clear, this idea of Dharma is not about blindly following rules. It's not about dogma, and it is absolutely not the enemy of asking questions. In fact, it's the total opposite. It's not there to shut down your curiosity. It's there to give it a purpose and to protect it from becoming destructive. This is such a great way to think about it. Curiosity is the engine, right? It's the energy that drives us forward. But Dharma is the compass that makes sure we're actually heading in a good direction, a direction that leads to real wisdom, not just more noise. They have to work together. So this brings us to a choice that really we're all facing every day. It turns out curiosity isn't just one thing. It actually has two very different faces, and they lead to two very different places. On one side, you've got what we can call dharmic curiosity. This is the deep, quiet, patient kind, the kind that drives scientists and philosophers. And on the other side, you've got voyeuristic curiosity. This is the kind that feeds on drama and scandal and comparing ourselves to others. One is guided by that internal compass. The other is just driven by that restless, engineered craving. And really, it all boils down to this. It comes down to the kinds of questions we ask ourselves. Dharmic curiosity asks things like, what is true? What can actually relieve suffering? How can I be of service? These are questions that make our world bigger. Voyeuristic curiosity, though, it asks, who messed up today? What's the latest gossip? How do I stack up against them? These questions, they just make our world smaller. And here's the really subtle trap. In the moment, chasing down some scandal can feel just as exciting as pursuing a deep truth. They both give you that little dopamine hit, but the long-term results could not be more different. Only one of these paths actually leads to real wisdom and a sense of inner freedom. So at the end of the day, what does this all mean? It means our little habits of curiosity are not so little. Over time, the questions we choose to obsess over, the things we choose to seek out, they literally shape the person we become. This quote just says it all, perfectly. It's not about how many facts you can collect. It's about the quality of your seeking, the questions that you keep coming back to day in and day out. Those questions are building the house you live in, inside your own mind. And that brings us to the core message here. The goal is not to crush your curiosity. That would be like trying not to see or trying not to hear. It's impossible. The goal is to train it, to guide it, to align that powerful, hungry sense with what you actually value. So we're left with this, a pretty deep question to reflect on. How do we move from being just consumers of information to becoming the kind of person who's very active asking, whose curiosity itself is actually a positive force, a blessing to the world? It's a powerful thought to leave you with.